Are you in the market for a remote job and you're not sure where to start? Well, stick around because in this video, I'm going to share with you the fastest growing remote jobs in the United States. Hey everybody, it's Brian from Life After Layoff, and today I want to share with you the fastest growing remote jobs in the United States over the past 5 years. And as a corporate recruiter with over 20 years of experience interviewing and hiring thousands of people into some of the world's largest and most well-known companies, I actually have interviewed and hired for a lot of these positions, and I do have direct experience with several of them. All right, so the article on LinkedIn breaks down the last 5 years of job postings, and they look for trends on how many jobs were posted with certain job titles or certain job classifications, and then they break down a lot of different parameters like salary, what kinds of career paths it leads to, and then again, that percentage of remote work. Now, I will put an asterisk on this and say, because it is a 5-year data set, I'm a little skeptical of the actual percentage of remote work. I actually think that a lot of these jobs are going to be much higher in today's job climate because in the last 18 months or so, companies have had a much higher appetite or bandwidth for remote work. And in fact, it's kind of become pretty much the standard in a lot of industries with a lot of different job types. So I would suspect if they just looked at the last 2 years, you'd probably see some pretty drastically different results on this article. So I wanted to point that out before we get into some of these remote jobs. Now, some of these positions will be more senior, so you will need a career strategy in order to achieve them if you're entry level or looking to move into a different career path. So keep that in mind if you're interested in any of these particular positions. Might require you to do a little bit of retooling. But before we get too far into it, if you're interested in more videos just like this one directly from a corporate recruiter, make sure you hit that subscribe button. All right, so without further ado, let's jump into some of these job posts. All right, so the first one is the customer marketing manager. Now, what is a customer marketing manager and how is it different from just a traditional marketing manager? The traditional marketing manager works on brand awareness for a product or service. So they run ads, they do the traditional marketing efforts that you might see. And where the customer marketing manager comes in is they actually are an advocate for the customer. They're contacting existing customers or trying to get customer bases understanding the breadth and the depth of the product offerings that they have. So say take a software program, for example, if a company is just buying a certain portion of it, the customer marketing manager is going to market to that existing customer and let them know about all the other product extensions that they have. So the hope is that they'll highlight the benefits of those products to keep the customer retained, but then also to sell more product to them. The nice thing about this job is that it's reporting that there's 30.7% of all job postings are remote. Now, this is obviously a management position, not an entry-level job. So if you wanted to get into a marketing career path, this could be something that you aspire to on your career journey. The stated rate of pay is between $90,000 to $150,000. And I would say that's probably pretty accurate. I would say on the lower end, you're probably looking at a smaller company or somebody that's a little bit junior in their role. But it's easy to get into that 6-figure range, especially with those bonuses. The next high growth remote job is in the same genre. It's the business development specialist. So what's a business development specialist? Essentially, it is an opener for a sales group. So this person is going to be going and knocking on doors and engaging brand new clients to try to get them to sign up for new business. A lot of times this job is going to be entry level and it's going to be a stepping stone into a sales career path. And in this position, it is stating that 32.5% of all jobs posted in the last 5 years were remote. And this is one that I would definitely suspect is much, much higher. In fact, I would be willing to guess it's at least 50% in today's market. It does say that the stated salary range is between $35,000 and $68,000, which honestly, even for business development, seems kind of low. And I think that probably is really going to depend on the type of business that you are developing. It's a smaller company. The nice thing about these are you generally get pretty decent bonuses or commission structures. But I know that business development representatives who are successful can be making easily into the 6 figures. If you're somebody that's good at selling, this is a great place to start your career. All right, so the next one on the list is the search marketing manager. What is a search marketing manager? So essentially what it is a social media marketer and somebody that specializes in paid online ads. So think in terms of Google Ads, Google Analytics, SEO, all of those core competencies are what you would use in this particular position. Now, this one's showing 31% of all jobs posted are remote. This is one that I suspect is probably going to be a lot higher in today's market. It's also showing that the salary range is $46,000 to $90,400. The $46,000 seems really low. I would suspect that that is probably not a manager's position, and even the 90 honestly sounds pretty low. I guess it depends on the type of company that you're working for, but I've hired positions very similar to this before. Might have been a little bit more advanced than this, but we were paying easily in the mid 100s with a 20% bonus. So that'll kind of give you a baseline. And that position was remote. So very reasonable to expect this position will continue to be a remote job and will be something that you'll likely be able to demand if you're interviewing for it. So if you're good with the internet, you might also be interested in the user experience researcher. So what does a user experience researcher do? Essentially what they do is they look at the user experience on a website. So how the website is laid out, how you interact with it, how you click around, the user interface. And if you're interested in a UI UX career path and you're not sure how to get started, I actually made a video with an expert in the field that tells you exactly how to get started in that career, and it is extremely informational. I will leave a link for that. This position is absolutely going to be remote nowadays. So the remote availability is saying 35, which I think is so far highest on our list, but I would suspect that is much higher. In fact, I would probably put this one at 75% chance that this is going to be a remote job in today's market. 68,800 to 151. I would say that's probably pretty accurate. That range, 68.8 if you're working again for a smaller, maybe a mom and pop company, easily into the six figures plus a bonus. If you're working for a bigger company, anything in tech is in high demand right now. So the next one is also in the tech field, and it's the business system administrator. So what does a business system administrator do? So primarily they are responsible for installing software and hardware systems in businesses. Now, as far as remote job availability, this one is showing 44.9%, clearly the highest on the list. The reason why this one's gonna be highly remote is because in a lot of cases, they're able to log in remotely to do their work, and they can log into the systems and get you set up. If you're interested in a technical career path and you're not really sure where to start, this is actually a great place to look because the barrier to entry isn't quite as difficult as some of the software developing roles that you might see. And they're self-reporting a $52,000 to $110,000 salary range. I would say that's probably pretty accurate. Again, it's all going to be determined on the size of the organization that you work in. All right, so the next one is near and dear to my heart. It's the talent acquisition specialist. There are two different types of talent acquisition specialists. You can call them a recruiter if you want, but there's the internal corporate recruiter, which works directly for a company on their payroll and is part of an HR or a talent acquisition department. And there's corporate headhunters. So the headhunter is a third-party agency that is hired in and they get paid only on placement, whereas the corporate recruiter gets paid a salary and gets paid the same no matter if you accept the job or you don't. In my career, I have always worked as a corporate recruiter. I have not worked as a corporate headhunter at any point. Now, I'll say this is definitely one where the remote jobs have skyrocketed. Almost every position that I've come across recently in talent acquisition is going to be remote. Now, they're saying that the salary range is between 41 and 92. 41 is definitely entry level. 92 is probably about reasonable for a corporate recruiter. I would say if you're in tech or if you're in a bigger company, you're easily going to be over 100,000 and you would have a decent bonus on top of it. Now, if you're a corporate headhunter, it could be feast or famine. If you're really good at what you do, you can easily be making north of 100, probably even north of 200,000. If you're not so good, you could be looking at the lower end of this particular range. But it's a great career path to be in if you're interested in a remote job in talent acquisition or human resources. All right, so the next one is also in tech. It's a backend developer. So the backend developer is typically working on the server side. So it's the stuff that you don't see that works behind the scenes. Generally speaking, the backend is going to be a little bit more complex than the front end. But if you work front end and back end, it's considered to be full stack. These positions, depending on the company, are absolutely going remote. And this is saying 43.5% remote availability. I would say right now it's probably over the last year, because this is such a difficult position to fill and so competitive, that it's probably, I gotta estimate it's probably 80% remote at this point. You can, if you are a good backend developer and you are interested in remote, you can basically demand whatever you want. Salary ranges between 47 and 149 is kind of laughable. If you are a good backend developer, you are certainly not working for 47,000, and 149 would be the absolute minimum that I'd be starting my negotiations with. It's very reasonable to consider a highly skilled, high-level backend developer can be making north of $300,000 to $400,000 in a year. I've actually heard as high as $700,000 to $800,000 for companies like Google, but I know other tech companies that are decent sized, 150 to 200 base plus a decent bonus on top of that is easily doable. So if you're interested in tech, developers are where it's at. You can write your check and you can certainly expect a remote job. So the next one's interesting. It's a mergers and acquisitions manager. Essentially what they're doing is they're evaluating opportunities to purchase another company, and they kind of look at how to make that happen. It's going to be mostly a financial career path. This one is showing a 25.5% remote availability. That probably seems about accurate. I would imagine these are going to be mostly in larger companies that are doing the mergers and acquisitions. From a salary perspective, 87,500 to 185. My expectation is this probably going to be biased towards the higher end of that range. 87.5 just seems pretty low. I'm wondering where LinkedIn is getting their data, because it just seems like such a huge span. And if you're getting involved with mergers and acquisitions in a big company, you're going to be making some pretty good dough. All right, so the next one is the site reliability engineer. So what is a site reliability engineer? Well, it's also in IT. So if you're seeing a common theme, is that IT is the place to be for remote work, especially if you want high paying remote work. Get into an IT career path. The site reliability engineer is essentially looking at automation of software and looking for process improvement. So they are really kind of a go-between between the software developers and the people who are actually installing the software or hardware. So they're kind of looking at, from a reliability perspective, they're looking at upgrades, they're looking at automation, running scripts, and those sorts of things. And it's going to be heavy on cloud. You'll need to know some scripting and some coding, but it's not going to be a full-on developer job. This position is saying 30.4%. I would say, just like the backend developer, site reliability engineers are in high demand. And if you're a good site reliability engineer, you're going to be able to write your own ticket. Probably not quite as high as the software developers, but I would easily say the top end of this range is doable. I'd say 140 to 180 is probably the sweet spot. And it's showing 30.4%. Again, I think it's probably closer to the software developer, where you're looking at probably 70 to 80% right now. Okay, so the last one on today's list is the strategic sales specialist. So the strategic sales specialist is really focused on growing business from a strategic perspective. They're really looking at competitive strategy, forecasting, and business growth recommendations. So somebody that's highly analytical can look at data sets and is really looking for opportunities to steer the business from a sales growth strategy perspective. This one is showing 25.8%. I would say this is probably closer to 40, 50% remote at this point. And it's showing a 39.5 to 128. Again, I think it's probably going to be biased on the higher end, especially when you look at commissions and how those commission structures are broken down. You're probably, I would say it's very reasonable to get into the 100,000 plus range for a strategic sales specialist. All right, so there you have some of the highest growth remote roles that are currently listed on LinkedIn. So if you're interested in moving into more remote first work, these are certainly good places to start. But if you're struggling in a career transition and you'd love to figure out how to get your foot in the door for some of these positions, that's actually something that I specialize in. I've got a website called alifeafterlayoff.com. It's loaded with tips and tricks, all from an insider's perspective, and I help teach you how to land these jobs. And I also have my deepest and most intimate knowledge in the form of some training courses. The first one is called Resume Rocketfuel, and it's designed to teach you how to write your resume that's going to get recruiters like me contacting you. It's going to take you through each step of the interviewing process and teach you exactly how to ace each round, ultimately to land your dream job. But if you find yourself needing even more specialized one-on-one attention, I actually do offer some private coaching sessions, and you can reach me through my website to set that up. Hey, happy job hunting. Hopefully this list was helpful, and we will see you on the next one.